And now, the show that gives you the latest and most relevant housing market news. Real Estate Radio Boston with financial expert Rick Scherer and legal professional Ali Alavi.
Welcome back, WBZ 1030 Real Estate Radio Boston. Go check us out at realestateradio.boston.com. That's realestateradio.boston.com. And listen, over the last few weeks, we've seen this huge spike in our podcast. So if you can't catch us on Saturdays at 8, download the podcast right to your smartphone. Take us with you wherever you go.
Exactly. And if you don't know what a podcast is,
well, you can ask your kids. Your kids will tell you what a podcast is.
Exactly.
And you can take us with you. It's pretty neat.
Absolutely.
And we've got in studio a phenomenal real estate agent, Donna Charpentier from Hammond Residential. Welcome into the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, you've been in the business for a long time.
Yes.
And you work out of the South End Boston office of Hammond, right?
Yes.
And where is your sweet spot as far as that is concerned? I mean, South End, let's face it, Boston is a very, very tight-knit city, and we have a lot of really unique neighborhoods, and people specialize in those neighborhoods.
Right.
You've sort of carved a niche for yourself.
Well, I do a lot in South Boston. I moved there in 1997 before it had seen any of the changes that we see today.
Right.
And so I do, just organically, my business grew there because I had lived there for so long. And now what I'm seeing is that people who are priced out of South Boston, they're looking in other areas. And so I'm now bringing them to those other neighborhoods where they can get more for their money.
Yeah, we had the Boston Magazine writer in here talking about how Boston is just so expensive. That big article in March, the cover story, and she highlighted a couple of different markets that are up and coming, where you can buy today and realize a much greater impact. So, want to talk about a couple of things that you feel are really the up and coming neighborhoods that people can afford to buy a really nice place in. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we're seeing right now 3 neighborhoods that are seeing a ton of interest and increased popularity. And these are neighborhoods that are considered up and coming, that maybe have just only recently started to become gentrified or developed, or just have been overlooked in the past for whatever reason.
Right.
And so those neighborhoods are Dorchester, Roslindale, and East Boston.
So Dorchester, just because of location, you've got the South End became pretty expensive, and then you had people moving into South Boston.
Right.
South Boston had that over the last couple of years. I would say over the last 10 years, to be honest with you, a huge spike in popularity. Now people can't afford. What did you say? The average 2-bedroom is somewhere around $600,000
last year. And that's not even going to get you parking at this point.
And so now you're getting bumped into Dorchester.
Right. I call it the Southeast spillover.
Okay.
That the rise in the prices in Dorchester, or the rise in the popularity in Dorchester, is largely driven by people being priced out of Southie. I mean, literally, if you just drive a mile down the road, you're going to be in Savin Hill or the JFK UMass area. Great neighborhoods.
Yeah, Red Line.
It has a lot of the appeal that South Boston does. It's on the Red Line, just like Southie, has great restaurants just like Southie, and some would argue even better in Dorchester. And it's super close to downtown, and you have the beaches as well.
I mean, let's face it. What you're talking about and what you're proposing is what has already occurred in other neighborhoods, right? I mean, you look at the South End neighborhood in the city. 15, 20 years ago, nobody wanted to go there.
Right.
You look at South Boston. Yes, it was very cliquey. It was predominantly Irish, and there was hardly any development that was going on there, so on and so forth. And people weren't even looking over there twice. And as it became gentrified, as the development really focused in that direction, we're seeing that appreciation. And I think one of the things you were mentioning during break, which I think is worthy of sort of repeating, is why would you want to go to neighborhoods that have already realized an appreciation? Why not go to these quote-unquote emerging markets and sort of plant yourself there and gain a much higher appreciation over time, right?
Right. I mean, if we can talk about East Boston for a little bit,
yeah.
It's starting to see a lot of development, especially along the waterfront. And the views of the Boston skyline are great. If you're in another waterfront neighborhood in Boston, your views aren't great. You're staring at the airport. If you're actually in East Boston, your views are the downtown skyline. And so last year, a buyer who maybe was looking in the North End or Charlestown, they were spending on average $640,000 for a 2-bedroom. If they just go across the bay, and one of the big myths about East Boston is that it's hard to get to, and that is not the case at all.
Right.
It is one stop from Aquarium, gets you to East Boston in 3 minutes.
And there's a water taxi there.
There's a water taxi.
Right.
There's talk of that there's going to be a ferry at some point, but it's right off the pike. It really honestly couldn't be easier. If you just go over to East Boston, you're going to be spending $300,000 less, about $340,000 on a 2-bedroom.
I want to challenge this for a minute. Go ahead.
Let me just, because a lot of people also have a stigma that that obviously there's a toll when you get over there, but residences get
40 cents.
40 cents.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal. All right. Just want to get that out there. Go ahead.
No, that's
Mr.
good. It's a
Alavi.
good point.
Yeah.
But let me challenge you on this. I mean, the basic rule. There's 3 basic rules in real estate as far as purchasing real estate, and those are location, location, location.
Correct.
Right. So if I am a up and coming millennial and I want to go to East Boston, and there's a ton of development going on in East Boston, and let's, for the sake of argument, let's say that there's going to be a downturn. Do you think that East Boston is going to be the one that's going to probably get the most hit as far as these emerging markets are concerned, as opposed to South End or Back Bay, or do you or you don't believe that?
I don't think so. There's so much going on over there. If you take a walk along the waterfront, you're going to see cranes everywhere. There's condos, there's apartments, there's hotels going in, there's great new restaurants opening up. I don't think so. And if there is a downturn, wouldn't you rather buy in an area that's already affordable to begin with? Because when you sell, you're going to make that much more. There's going to be that much more return on your investment when you sell.
Then maxing out and trying to get into the South End or South
Yeah,
Boston.
if you're buying at the height of the market in some of these other neighborhoods that have already arrived, so to speak, you're paying top dollar. So why not go somewhere that still has a couple more years to go before it's
I love it.
fully
I
done?
love it. I mean, one of the things that you mentioned very briefly is that these emerging markets have amenities that a lot of people don't necessarily know about.
Right.
I mean, there are certain gems with regards to these emerging markets that we're talking about. And for those listeners, if you're just tuning in, this is Real Estate Radio Boston, your hosts Rick Scherer and Ali Alavi, and we're talking to Donna Charpentier. She's with Hammond Residential in the South End. And so what are some of those amenities? What are some of those hidden gems?
Well, Rosendale is a great example of this. A lot of people think Rosendale is really far away. It isn't. They have a commuter rail station there right in the center. In 11 minutes, you're at Back Bay Station. So that's hard to beat.
Right.
You couldn't do that in drive time. And Rosendale Square is just a really cool spot. Every Saturday they have a farmer's market. The Arnold Arboretum is just a short walk from there. And Rosendale Village, if you're a foodie, which I am, they have tons of stuff. They have a wine and cheese shop. They have a fishmonger. They have a butcher. It's almost like, I'm not going to say it's like being in Europe.
Right.
But you can kind of do European style shopping
I'll
there.
tell you something. That Rick and I both live in Hopkinton, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every 3 weeks, I am in Rosendale Square. I'm in that farmer's market. I go to my meat market. I go to the Mediterranean place, and I get my bread there.
Yeah.
And I go to the Greek store, and I get my Greek cheese there.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's amazing. You're right. It's such a wonderful hidden gem, and no wonder the developers are looking that way.
Right.
Now, Donna, do you recommend that people go out on the weekends, and especially if they're saying, "Hey, I want South Boston," you're like, you're a little bit. Maybe go hang out in Dorchester on a Saturday afternoon, or head over to Rosendale, go over to the farmers market, and check it out. I mean, do you?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Tell your clients to just go hang out.
So I do a series of 3 things because it can be hard to convince people to go to these neighborhoods if they really want to be in another one. And so one, I take them on a tour. So if we're going to do a tour Dorchester, I'm going to say, look, just get in my car. We're going to spend 45 minutes.
I love that.
I'm going to drive you around. I'm going to show you where you're going to get your morning coffee, where all the great restaurants are, where the tea station is, where the beaches
That is
are.
fantastic.
I'm going to show you where the mayor lives.
Right.
Perhaps he doesn't want me to do that, but I'll do it anyway. And
I think everybody knows where he lives anyways.
You're getting a letter now.
I know, right? And then I also give them homework because they need to explore the area on their own. If you're going to live there, you need to feel comfortable there and you need to experience it on your own. So I give everybody a list of, top restaurants and coffee shops and fun things to do on the weekend, whether it's visiting a historic site or just other stuff. And then third, I take them to open houses. So if you've been priced out of South Boston, or we've been in 5 bidding wars and you can't afford it, and then I bring you over to Savin Hill, And suddenly you can see that not only for your money you can get a 2-bedroom instead of a 1-bedroom, but now you have parking. It's kind of a game changer at that point.
Now, Donna, we talked about this in the beginning. There are certain types of real estate agents that are out in this marketplace. There are people that are part-time, do it on the side. Then there are professionals, and quite frankly, like you, because we do quite a bit of business together. And what I can tell you is that your clients, when they get to me, they're probably one of the most informed clients around everything, financing, around the areas and around the process that I have the pleasure to work with. So, thank you so much for that. How can people reach you if they want to find a top real estate agent in those markets?
They can go to donnacharpentier.com or just Google the Hammond Residential website as well, and you can find me that way under Find an Agent.
Or give us a call at 855-4ASK-RICK. Thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great.
Well, up next we have Laurie Rafelson. She's our resident divorce attorney.
Yeah, with Rafelson and Rafelson. And we're going to talk a lot about divorce and real estate.
Exactly.
Stay tuned. Be right back.